Hello everyone, welcome back to my Pathfinder beginner tutorial. Today we're going to go over skills. So basically what skills are is basically if you want to do something that's they're basically they're not really determining factors, but they're helpful things to have, and they will help you in areas outside of combat, and a few of them actually work inside of combat. So definitely has some flushes out things, and we've already determined what our class skills are, so I'm going to explain the basics of skills. Basically, when you make a skill check, you roll a 20-sided dice and add your bonus to it. The bonus is determined by the ability score, that the ability modifier of the ability from the skill, which is listed beside them. For example, acrobatics has dexterity as its skill. The ranks you put into it, you can put one rank per level of your character. And the mystic mod, these are stuff from magic items or masterwork items, and you also get a +3 bonus if you put a rank into a class skill. The skills with a asterisk mean that you have to put one rank into it in order to use that skill at all. So it's kind of like you only know how to use it if you've trained in it. And if you don't want to roll a dice and you're not really you're not really distracted, you can just take what's called a 10 on it. Basically treat the dice roll as it was 10. However, you can also try to take a 20 on the dice roll, but it will assume that you failed multiple times. So be careful if the situation is failing will have repercussions for your character, such as trying to climb a cliff. You don't want to fail 19 times on doing that. And you can also try to make the same skill check to help another character with the scenario, but it has to be logical that you can help them at the time, and it has to be and the bonus, if you do succeed, it's only a +2 to their roll, so little boost but not that much. So let's go over the skills. Acrobatics, that's your jumping, balance, and your tumbling ability. So theoretically you can use acrobatics during combat to stay on narrow surfaces, or to jump long distances, or to get out of the way of a target that might hit you very hard without getting hit yourself. Appraise is an outside class skill. It's basically used to determine how much an item is worth. Specifically, this applies to art items, or items with or items that are intrinsically more valuable because of the materials they're made of. Bluff, this is pretty self-explanatory. You're trying to lie. You can also use it to perform what's called the feint combat maneuver. So basically the feint DC is 10 plus the base attack bonus of the person you're trying to feint plus their wisdom modifier, or if they're trained in sense motive, it's 10 plus the bonus, the sense motive bonus. And if you succeed, you can nullify the dexterity bonus on the target, which is handy, if depending on who you're going after. It could also be used to like pass secret messages around. Climb is pretty self-explanatory. Rock climb, that kind of stuff. But you do get a penalty to it. It's one with most of these physical skills, you'll get penalties to it if you're wearing heavier armor, which makes sense when we're more encumbered. Craft is basically making something from scratch. So theoretically, when you take a craft skill, you have to write down what you took the rank. To put a rank into a craft skill, you have to put a rank what you put into it. It's just like craft alchemy, craft weaponsmith, craft blacksmith. So you can just use this to flush out a character, or to, let's say if you're using exotic weapons, picking up a craft skill could help. Craft skill can help you find more different weapons than you'd find in the shops, because let's face it, not every blacksmith is going to make you katanas. Diplomacy. This is used for two main things. One is try to get people more friendly towards you. This is basically the proper tactful way to handle it. It's also used to discover is to gather information. So if you're trying to ask around town about X, that would be your role. So handy to have. Disable device, that's lockpicking / trap disabling. So that's more of a rogue ability. So if you don't want to put points into it, unless you're playing that kind of character, oops, sorry, I wouldn't do it. Disguise is pretty self-explanatory. There's times for how you can do it, and oh wait, that's for disable device. So theoretically, there's bonuses. There's bonuses and penalties if you're trying to disguise how far you're trying to disguise yourself. So it's kind of it's useful, definitely, if you're a subterfuge character. The thing with skills is pick what would be well for a character. Your class skills help very well with that because that would be what the class would normally have. Escape artist. This is kind of like getting out of roadblocks, bindings, basically anything that Harry Houdini was famous for. Fly. This doesn't allow you to fly, but it does allow you to maneuver better while you're flying. The reason why it's a class skill is because it's a wizard class skill, because wizards learn spells that allow them to fly later. Specifically later on, like this is just the first level, there's no spells that make you fly at first level. Handle animal. This is basically training animals to for combat mounts and rearing animals. Basically, training rearing wild animals, handling an animal. So theoretically, or teaching animal tricks. So it's basically kind of like taking care of animals. Basically, that's what it was. Heal is your first aid skill. So heal doesn't normally heal hit points, but it will like stabilize dying creatures and stuff like that. Note this is non-magical healing, so careful about that. But it's definitely handy if you don't have the ability to fix what's going on right now, especially in a combat situation. Intimidation. This is basically used to threaten someone to become friendly towards you for a short time. This is kind of risky in a civilized setting because it's kind of illegal. However, you can use intimidation to demoralize enemies in combat. So it's better used for combat than out of combat. The knowledge skills. Knowledge is kind of like the craft skill, but it's was taken out from 3.5, so the list includes all the basics from the player's handbook. So I'm going to go over basically what what a knowledge skill is. It's basically determining how much you know about a certain subject. And the subjects are listed here. Some of them are logical. So basically the first thing is knowledge's check is determine what you know about the specific field. However, some of the checks involve for monster lore. So I'm going to go over which ones you pick if you want to identify a creature on sight. So knowledge arcana is basically, if you're a spellcaster, that'd be a good one to have. Or knowledge of arcane magic. It also covers the creature's constructs, dragons, and magical beasts. So it will cover quite a bit of other creatures. Dungeoneering is underground navigation. It also covers oozes and abominations, which are common creatures that can be found underground. Engineering is kind of self-explanatory. Geography is knowing about the landmarks and that kind of stuff. History is self-explanatory. It's kind of the same thing in our world, except it applies to the world that you're from, or the world you're playing in. Local is superstitions. It would also cover every creature with the humanoids type, which basically applies to every player race. So every race from Chapter 2, this skill would apply to identify them. It also applies to a lot more creatures than that, because those aren't the full list of humanoids. Knowledge nature. This is kind of self-explanatory. It also helps you identify animals, fae, monstrous humanoids, and plant creatures. So theoretically, it's kind of like understanding what kind of threats can be in the forest and that kind of stuff. Nobility is kind of self-explanatory. Planes covers, if you're taking the School of Conjuration as a wizard, this is a great skill for you, because you are calling from other planes or other realities. So theoretically, this is what it covers. The main creature it covers is called the Outsider, which is a big list of creatures. It includes every creature that does not have a presence of the material plane, which is, well, and some that do, actually. But we're going to go over those. I'll probably go over those later in the more advanced books. So that's what planes are. Religion is kind of self-explanatory. It covers mythic lore from multiple faiths, and it also covers knowledge about the undead. So that's where that is. Linguistics is used for 3 things. For every point you put in, every rank you put into linguistics, you know another language. You can also use a linguistics check to forge or decipher a written language. So it's kind of a multi-tool. Perception. This is basically seeing things, seeing hidden things, or noticing something. That's hearing, sight, smell, that kind of stuff. Performance is kind of like craft, because you have to take a thing here, but you have to take a subtype. For example, perform acting or perform wind instruments or something. So basically, the perform check is basically can be used for primarily, you can use it as a secondary job. Let's say your charisma is higher than your wisdom. You could just take it as a way to make some money in your downtime. Profession. This is basically doing a job or having skills of work. So theoretically, you can roll this to, if you want to figure out if your background... this is more of a background thing. Like, you can just take a career from medieval times, even fantasy medieval, so you can just type it in to figure out what the kind of things are. So it's kind of like filling it's more of a background of your character. Ride, this is basically mostly like riding horses or doing like more complicated stuff than just saddleback, but specifically when you get into combat, this will come up. Or doing some pushing the horse to spur mount, or if you got like into a really deep marsh or something, it'd be more of a something that happens while you're riding the horse. You make a ride check. Sense motive. This is primarily used to avoid. This is kind of your anti-bluff. This is kind of the thing that allows you to figure out if a target's lying to you. It also can be used to determine the school of enchantment, but it has to be used on the target of the spell, not the caster. So theoretically, the stronger the enchantment, normally the lower the DC, which is actually kind of surprising, but it makes sense with what you're talking about with enchantment. Sleight of hand, this is kind of like pickpocketing, which makes sense why the wizard or the fighter doesn't have it. Spellcraft, this is used to determine, like when we said in a race, it's used to identify magic items. It's also used to create magic items, determine if you created it successfully or you cursed it. And it's also used to identify spells or learn spells when you find them. So very handy skill when you're a caster. Stealth is hiding. I think it's opposed by perception, so it's kind of skill versus skill kind of thing. Survival is kind of like finding your way in the wilderness. It's kind of like it's used to ultimately to track, to find food in the wilderness, and to basically it's wilderness survival skills. Swim is explanatory. It's swimming in water. Or any liquid, actually, but you might want to be careful if depending on what liquid it is. Granted, it's not exactly funny. But granted, I don't think that many characters would try to swim in lava, but it would probably use a swim check, if you could. Use magic device. This is kind of the hardest one to understand, because the fact is, most magic devices, or a good list of them, specifically use active. Some magic items will have what's called a requirement to run them. For example, you might be required to have a certain ability score or be of a certain race or alignment. Use magic device allows you to basically cheat through it. So theoretically, it's kind of like hacking. If this was more modern, this would be kind of a hacking skill. Trying to fake the device into thinking that you have proper use of it. So theoretically, you can activate blindly. You can try to decipher a written spell with this. Spellcraft is probably easier, but if you don't have it. Use a scroll or a wand that you don't have the spell on your list. If you have the spell on your list, you have access to it. Emulate a class creature. You can emulate an ability score. You can emulate being a different race, and you can emulate a different alignment. So theoretically, that's the kind of stuff you can use with this. So it's very handy to have, but not dangerous, because a good chunk of magic items won't care. So it has come in handy every once in a while for me, so it's kind of like one of those skills it's a really nice back pocket skill, but not necessary. So now we're going to determine how many skill points we get per level. We're elf, so we're an elf, level 1 fighter, level 1 wizard. So we can put 2 ranks into all our skills. Our fighter, okay, we have 4 skill ranks from our intelligence bonuses, because we add our intelligence to skills every level. And the base for fighter is 2 plus intelligence, and the base for wizard is 2 plus intelligence. So we have 12 points to spend. 2 plus 4 is 6, 2 plus 4 is 6, so we have 12 points to spend. However, for this character, I'm gonna put 6 skills at 2 ranks each. So let's pick them up. First things first. Let's see. Well, I'm gonna be an archer, so I'm gonna take 2 ranks into perception. Oops. Yeah. Wizard, 2 ranks into arcana, and 2 ranks into spellcraft. Those come in handy. So there's 3. Let's see. I won't need fly yet for spells. Handle animal, useful, but I don't really have the charisma for it. Linguistics, I'm not really a thing. Profession, sense motive, sleight of hand, spellcraft, stealth, survival, swim, use magic device. So there's 3 of my 6 skills already. Let's I'll put 2 into knowledge nature. And 2 ranks into knowledge nature, and what's my other 2 ranks into? Let's put 2 ranks into geology. There we go. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can put 2 ranks into something else. Let's put 2 ranks into climb. So theoretically, since I'm training these skills, I add 3 to them. Except perception, because I don't have the skill proficiency in that. So, and then you add your ability modifier. Climb is a 0, so the total is a +5. Oops. Intelligence is 4. Intelligence 4. Intelligence 4. Wisdom is 0. Intelligence 4. So now I had the total 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4 perception. 9, 9, 9. So there's my skills. You can put other skills up if you want to, calculate them, but I just like doing the ones I haven't been trained. Because that way I know what I'm good at, primarily, and for the other things you can just make a check from this, from your ability scores. So, that's all for skills. The next one we're going to go cover is feats, which I'm going to be a little bit stingy about because of the pure number of them. I'm not going over every feat. So hopefully you enjoy this. If you have any suggestions, you can leave me a comment, and thank you for watching. See you next time.